Hello and welcome to Grandfather's Story. Tonight, I'm going to share a story about an apprentice, not a celebrity, but a man new in the field of earning and supporting his family. There was a small shop on a narrow lane, a heap of brass springs, and a young man who learned that fixing things is the easiest way to fix oneself. If you like quiet traits that teach loud lessons and stories that tells you to think, then subscribe and win your patience. This one needs a careful ear. The lane was narrow enough that two people could stand shoulder to shoulder and still call a neighbor by habit. It housed a cobbler, a lamp repair, a small printing press, and at the very end, behind a faded sign, Hollis and Son, fine timepieces. Inside Hollis, a light felt like it belonged to the room rather than the day. Lamps set in safe places, and dust moved slowly as if it were telling its own story. Hundreds of clocks leaned on shelves. Mental clock, Longcase elders, tiny travel pieces sealed in velvet. Each tick had a particular timbre, and together they made a soft, law-abiding chorus. Master Hollis was a man with hair that color of old silver and hands precise as a surgeon's, but gentle as a gardener's. He had been a watchmaker all his life, and the town people treated him like a kind of local weather, reliable, slow changing, quietly needed. Even came to this lane at 17, covered in the kind of curiosity that makes people interested in how things hold together. He applied to be an apprentice because the watchmaker had an ad in the local paper that read simply "Apprentice wanted. No prior experience is necessary. Must love careful things." Even loved careful things. He loved how a hinge could hold up a door, how a seam becomes a pocket, how a phrase can mean one thing to one listener and another to someone else. He wanted, without quite admitting it, to learn how to keep a steady, small life. Master Hollis took him on, more out of inclination than instructions. The shop needed hands, and even needed direction. It was an arrangement both humble and precise. Now, do you know what an apprentice is? Let me tell you. An apprentice can be many things: a job, a discipline, or a long lesson in living lightly. The best ones teach you how to listen to the way objects breathe. Now, Ivar's first task was a simple one: clean the face of an old carriage clock. He learned how to remove the bezel without praying, how to breathe the dust away instead of blowing, how a smallest nick can change the way a hand returns to zero. Master Hollis watched him through wire-rimmed spectacles. He taught more by slowing down than by speaking fast. Listen, he said on the third day, placing a tiny movement between them. The watch's click was hesitant, as if it were tired of going in circles. Do you hear the hitch? Ivan nodded. He had nothing to say except to listen more carefully. Fix the hitch, Hollis said. Then fix the reason for which someone made it. The last line felt like a riddle. Fix the reason someone made it. Ivan would think about it for years. He worked with tweezers that felt heavier than his hands were ready for. He learned patience as a muscle. Small screws become stars he had to map carefully. When he finally resembled the carriage clock, its tick regained a steady velvet cadence. Master Hollis nodded almost imperceptibly, a little approval that curled in Ivan's sternum like the heat. Word of Ivan's care spread like a footnote. One autumn, the town council knocked the Hollis door with a commission that smelled of responsibility. The old municipal clock in the square, the one that hadn't chimed at noon in years. It needed work. The council wanted it fixed before Harvest Day. The municipal clock was a different animal, larger, loud, and with mechanisms that hummed like a sleeping beast. Master Hollis agreed to take the job, but the weight of the mechanism meant he needed a second pair of careful hands, Evans. They hauled the clock's works to the shop and spread its parts across the long table. Springs the size of small umbrellas, gears with more teeth than a comb, and mallets that looked too gentle for a job. The municipal mechanism was ancient and ornery, and, as Ivan discovered, stubborn, with a history of patchwork repairs. We will need a month, Master Hollis said. No quick fixes. I will help every day, Ivan replied without thinking. He didn't know if he meant the hours or the objects he wanted to fix in himself. They walked at dawn and into the evening, oiling, reshaping, aligning. At times the gear train sounded like a conversation of squirrels. Even learned to read tension like a ledger. Which spring wanted retempering, which pin needed a tiny lap. He learned that older things asked a different kind of respect, not to force them into function, but to invite them gently. You know, big clocks are stubborn with history. They remember hands that buffed them, children who played beneath them, and decisions made in haste. Fixing them means fixing a bit of town's memory. One afternoon, as the rain made the shop smell like earth, Ivan made a careless choice. A pin, no bigger than a grain, slipped from his trousers and clinked into the carpet, where it disappeared between threads. In a half panicked moment, he reached with his fingers and impatient stomped his palm into the fabric to find it. The pin bent. It was a kind of error that scrapped the confidence right of a person. He would bend a pin that was precise to a fraction, the sort of mistake that makes mechanism feel cold. He told Hollis in a voice that sounded smaller than himself. Master Hollis did not shout. He sat even down and produced from a drawer a small rod and a set of files that looked like surgeon's kit. He did not scold. He showed. Bending is not the end of the world, he said. It's a beginning if you know how to straighten it. But straightening takes time and care. They worked together, the master demonstrating, even initiating, then improving. It was in that folding error into work that even learned a key lesson. Sometimes a repair you most needed was for your own hurry. They repaired the pin, tampered it in oil, and resumed its place beside its fellows. Ivan felt like a person who had taught how to mend their own impatience. After spending a few weeks into the municipal job, a man came to the shop with a watch wrapped in a handkerchief. He was Mr. Edridge, a retired schoolmaster who had taught at the grammar school across the lane. This belonged to my mother, he said, placing a watch on the counter. The watch face was small, with faded Roman numericals and hairline crack. I don't want you to change its face. You should keep the years as much as the minutes. Even understood. Perhaps because he had his own private things that had earned their own scratches. He worked with a tiny device, feeling the life stored in its balance, while even adjusted the hair spring. Mr. Edridge told stories of the town's grammar class, the pride of a well-linked exercise, a small rebellions of children who wrote funny endings, the way a teacher's patience stuck to students like moths to a gentle flame. A teacher, a teacher's watch should have stories, Mr. Edridge said. The crack is part of that. Don't remove it. Even learned the courage to restrain. He fixed functions, not the ease history. He adjusted the movements without replacing the face, and when he returned it, Mr. Edridge grasped his hand and thanked him as if he had given him back a voice. Sometimes people ask us to restore what appears broken. Very often, what they truly ask is to have their past reorganized, not removed. As the municipal clock neared completion, a representative from a large timepiece company arrived from the city. They offered a large sum for the entire mechanism, to remove it from the town, refurbish it in a distant workshop, and return it polished and perfect. The council was tempted. The money could repair roofs, improve the schools, and pave the lane. Master Hollis listened. Even listened louder than his ears allowed. The town was divided. Some argued financial prudence, others whispered that removing the mechanism would remove history. The municipal clock wasn't just a machine, it held noon on harvest days and midnight on festivals, and a memory of a once had hid in the bell tower even felt a tug towards the polished promise. The money would mean comfort for his widowed aunt, but when Hollis placed a hand on his shoulder, even felt something older than calculation. "What do the bells mean to you?" Hollis asked one night. "They mean," even hesitated, searching for the better word that convenience. "Home," he said eventually. It was not a full answer, but it was true. They held the decision at the town wall. People wore their reasons in the way they sat, some upright with the exact opinion, others half curled like tired readers. When it came the time to discuss, Mr. Edridge stood and spoke of teachers and crannies and class lists. Mr. Kapoor spoke of a clock that told her when to start baking, and the cobbler remembered fixing a boy's shoelace before church by the chime. Even Rose lust. He felt the weight of age in his chest and a new way, older than his years, because he had come to understand that his hands helped hold kind of a town together. He spoke softly. "If the clock goes away, the town will learn a new schedule. Maybe we will be richer. Maybe we will lose something that's not in the ledger. I don't know which would be worse, but if you ask me, let us fix it here. Keep it where people can still hear noon and midnight and the times they remember." The council was not required to follow his advice, but the room felt altered by his sincerity. When they voted, the town chose to keep the clock and to fund repairs locally with a small subscription from the residents and a festival to raise a bit more. The money was less than the city's offer, but the value felt measured in different coins. There is a value not found in ledgers, the wave of memories and small rituals that make a place ours. Sometimes we spend pennies to save a way of being. On the morning of harvest, the clock returned to the tower. Even and Master Hollis hoisted its works with hands that smelled of oil and oats. The bell ate the noon like a familiar meal. The town gathered beneath it and held their breath the same way people do when they hope something ordinary will still be there tomorrow. When the clock struck, its peal travelled through lanes and over laundry lines. Children stopped mid-chase. Bakers set down bread to listen. Someone popped a small old cork, a quiet private celebration. The municipal clock had been mended without losing its dents that told its history. It sounded like gratitude. Evan's aunt baked a loaf and set it to the window sill for them. It smelled like a thank you that needed no card. Months rolled like cloth. Hollis taught even more than mechanism, how to be present in the shop when a customer arrived heart heavy, how to refuse a job that would require erasing an old mark, how to spot when someone needed more than a repaired watch. Perhaps a conversation or a list of calls returned. One winter, one winter evening, a young woman came into the shop carrying a pocket watch that had stopped on the same hour it had always stopped on. The hour she had been proposed to and refused. She asked even hastily to fix it. They took the watch apart together. It was small but dense with meaning. She told Ivan in measured pieces about the decision she had made and how that stopped hour was a comfort and a needle both. Ivan did not offer advice. He didn't have to. He adjusted the spring to the watch ran, but left the hands to hold for a few ticks longer, as if honoring a pause for the woman's choice. She left, not with a polished symbol of progress, but with a moving watch and a softer chest. Even understood. Preparing function, preserving story. It was his new craft. And Apprentice learns to turn gears. But the true trade is learning which stories to preserve and which cracks to mend. Master Hollis taught even that fixing clocks is a way to listen to the town, to the past, and to the quiet parts of the people. So if you have something to repair or someone to hear, keep your hands steady and your ears open. The work of small repairs is a work of keeping a life together. If you like this slow clock shop tale, subscribe and wind a friend a watch tomorrow in thought, if not in deed.